Her Worship the Mayor, Alex Hawke, joins me now. Good morning to you.
Morena, good morning.
Right, the morning is a little bit cold this morning, but not as cold as it was earlier in the week. You would have been feeling that, wouldn't you?
Oh, that was stunning, wasn't it? Monday, Tuesday, it was incredible.
Couple of great days. Now, Three Waters reform is the big issue at the moment, I guess, in terms of local government. What do you make of the government's proposals to create 4 big water entities?
Well, what I make of it is, a couple of things. The first one is that the system of how we deliver and fund our water pipes across the country is obviously broken, and it's pretty clear from the data that's been released that there's huge variability on the state of our assets and how much they cost. And when you put that into a Central Hawke's Bay context, we certainly know how much it costs, and we certainly know that the amount of infrastructure we've got to deal with a small number of people is a real challenge. And so the idea of putting the assets into 4 entities to run, look, I know that at a gut level I think that scares some people, but actually I'm trying to strip it back to the really practical level about what are the benefits going to be for us in Central Hawke's Bay. And look, the modelling that has come out is pretty clear that instead of our water rates heading north of $2,000 and north of $4,000 per household per year, by using this bigger entity and some elements of scale and also how it's funded, that we could keep those household costs at a far more reasonable amount, which is probably less than what we are paying now. So, look, there's some real benefits in that, and also the idea that it doesn't matter if you're turning off on your tap in Waipokoro or Waimakariri or Whakatane. Delivery of some of our core water services are not necessarily unique by which community that we live in. So how do we take a more consistent approach? And so, look, I'm taking a pretty positive and open-minded approach to it.
Is there any talk of, because as it stands, the council own the pipes and everything associated with Three Waters, any talk of compensation for those from the government? Or?
Oh, look, there's some really practical things about if they're going to do this, if they're going to pick up a situation where they're going to pick up our assets and pick up associated debt and costs and everything associated with those assets. There's some residual leave-behind issues like stranded overheads in the operations of council, potentially other bits and pieces of how that affects borrowing and some other things to do with our balance sheet. And I think that there is a clear understanding from government they're going to have to help with that. Whether there's a position where there's a tangible sort of money to transfer assets, I don't think so. But honestly, councils will still be the owners of these assets, but in a collective way and in a way where we appoint a professional board of directors to be overseeing how these entities are run.
What kind of representation will we have that you understand from the proposals out?
Yeah, so this is something that is actually the minister. If you listen to what some of the things she said last week, one of the parts that actually need to be organised or negotiated or discussed at a regional level about what that looks like. Because obviously, if you've got an entity, and I think the one that we're in has got something like 20. Local authorities attached to it, you can't have necessarily a guiding committee or a reference group which has got every one of those 20 represented on it. It just becomes impractical. So how do we get that mix? How do we get that mix right? And that's something that would have to be worked out, and that's not something that necessarily freaks me out, to be honest. It's just one of those practical things you'd have to work through.
How will the proposed reforms, because we are a predominantly rural area, and there are many townships not on town supply or anything like that. Do they fall under this proposal or not?
No, so what this proposal does is picks up the council-owned assets. So for the settlements that we provide that infrastructure to, it would mean that their water pipes would be instead of directly owned by council, they would be owned by this bigger entity. And what I understand is that they would then, instead of paying their water rates via their council bill, there would be a water rate charged from these entities, a bit like how you get a power bill or other utilities. And so but I do think there's potentially benefit for other townships who don't have networks. So, for instance, if you think about Onga Onga and Takakino, for instance, who don't have water services at the moment, with a bigger entity, there may actually be the scale to be able to do that in the future, which we can't justify at a local level. So I think potentially in the future there may be benefits, but there won't be a direct impact currently on people who self-supply or maybe have their own water supply. We've got a few independent water supplies in the district. It doesn't impact those households or those schemes.
How do the other leaders around the region feel? I know that Craig Little from Wairau doesn't particularly like the proposals. Have you had any other discussions with Hastings Napier?
Look, I think the majority of mayors around the country are remaining open-minded because they know that we've got an issue, and they also can see that there are some benefits from working together. I think we all just need to take a bit of a deep breath, actually, and think about the practical benefits for households on this. And look, I think there's some comments about what local voice and local influence do we have. And I think that's important, but I also think we need to think about what are the things that are truly unique about our localities that we do need to influence, that are different from the quality of the drinking water or the technical way that we may treat our wastewater. Those things can actually be developed in a consistent way, and we need to think about more the things that are really unique to us, like our demographics are unique to us, how our towns are shaped are unique to us. And those are the things I think we should be focusing on for the best impact for local decisions.
Is this the start of amalgamation, do you reckon?
I don't know that it is. I think this is without amalgamation of leadership and representation, this is a way of working together to get most effective use of our infrastructure. And look, I think as a community and as a country, we need to be up to look at this seriously before we say yes or no.
Mayor Alex Hawke, thank you for your time. We'll catch you next week. Have a good one.
Kia kite.